So now we come to the fifth great global persecution, which we're calling the Atheistic persecution, and that's really the story, in a sense, of the church under communism. This really occurs in the 20th century. If we want a date for its beginning, it's probably 1917, the first time communists took power in any state, and that was in Russia at the time. And of course, it's still going on. If you look at China today, the current president, Xi Jinping, is very much taking this superpower back to a kind of 1950s Marxism and putting ideology back at the center of policy again. And so it's still going on. It's still having massive implications. But as I say, the story starts really in 1917 with the Bolsheviks seizing power in a coup amidst the ferment of a disastrous campaign of the Tsar of Russia in the First World War. Communism generally really grew significantly in the aftermath of war. Eastern Europe fell under Stalin's control in the Second World War, and of course Chinese communism took power in 1949 as a result also of the Second World War. Then, of course, we get Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Cuba in the 50s and 60s. Africa had some states that were vassals of the Soviets, such as Angola and Ethiopia. And so, at a point in the 20th century, half of humanity was under communism. So the question of how communists approached religion is massively significant. And the key to this strategy for controlling religion is education, or more precisely, re-education. You can see this in the language that's used. If you're sent to a labor camp in communist China, it's called re-education through labor, and that kind of betrays the core of it all. It comes from the theory, Marxism, and Marx himself taught that religion, in this famous phrase, religion is the opium of the masses, the sigh of the oppressed creature. And Marx understood and thought that people only became Christians or took any religion on out of wish fulfillment. People's lives are harsh and short, and they're characterized by alienation. The economy divides humanity into two classes. There's an industrial owning bourgeoisie, as it's called, and then you have the workers, or what they call the proletariat. And the workers are alienated from production. They've lost their dignity. They're owned. They're exploited by this ruling class. And so what will save them, according to Marx, from this dehumanization is when they realize what's happening and take action collectively to overthrow the bourgeoisie. So religion, for Marx, is a fantasy that stops this happening, because workers then think that their future life is not their only one, and if they can think of a future life after death that is free of sorrow and depression and poverty, they won't fight for a better life now. So Marx really saw religion as an enemy. But, however, for him, crucially, he thought that if you establish a classless society, religion will fade away because people will have their wishes and their dreams fulfilled now. Now, this was not the case, though, for a lot of followers of Marx. They realized that Marx was a bit of a dreamer, and that people like Lenin and Mao really felt like, no, even if we establish this kind of society, we need to actually actively get rid of religion. It won't wither away by itself. Mao said, power grows from the barrel of a gun. And so they created this revolutionary cadre that needed to overthrow and govern a country. And that's why communism is more accurately called throughout the 20th century as Marxism-Leninism. And Lenin himself, he lived from 1870 to 1924, he insisted that right believing and right mental discipline and unquestioning loyalty to the party is the only thing that brings revolution about. And they didn't believe for a second that religion would just wither away. It had to be hurried off the scene, or it would be a threat. And if that required force, so be it. Lenin told his followers to act as dead men on furlough, he said. So the stage was set for the persecution of the church.